Everyone, it's Shannon here for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video, we're going to create this rainbow birthday card. This is a little different take on a rainbow card where the background is very colorful, but the rainbow itself is nice and white. That's a nice contrast between the two. I'm going to start with this awesome stencil set. This is the Good Vibes set, and it is a 2 stencil set. I'm going to start with stencil 1, and I have a slightly smaller than an A2 panel here of white cardstock. It's 4 1/4 or 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm going to ink blend with Distress Oxides starting with Picked Raspberry, and I am going to create a little gradation here where it's darker at the top and lighter towards the bottom of the panel. This just creates a really cool ombre look, and when we do with the second stencil the same way, it'll really have a cool effect. I'm moving on to a red, which is Candied Apple, now on to an orange, Spiced Marmalade. I am overlapping my colors a little bit so I have no gaps, and also I am continuing to repeat that ombre look for each color. Mustard Seed is my yellow, and then after I finish the mustard seed, I only have a few more colors to go. My green is Mowed Lawn, and then I'll move on to my blue, which is Mermaid Lagoon. Definitely didn't save quite enough here for my 2 blues that I have at the end, so I kind of just really overlapped that Mermaid Lagoon over the Mowed Lawn, and then finished up with a little blueprint sketch. Now, because I didn't quite space it right, I felt like it was a little too heavy on the pink side, so I did add a little bit of Wilted Violet to the very end there just to kind of balance everything out. And that will actually finish all my ink blending with that first stencil. Now we're going to move on to stencil number 2. Now you line up the stencil with your previous ink blending. So this stencil will protect all those lines that I just ink blended with the first stencil. So once I get lined up, I'll then use a couple pieces of tape to just kind of hold that stencil in place while I ink blend with the same colors, but this time I'm going to do my ombre gradation starting at the bottom up, so that I'm more heavy-handed at the bottom, and then I get lighter towards the top. And by alternating or kind of doing the ombres 2 different ways on 2 different sides, it's going to create this kind of cool look. Adds a little bit of energy and excitement to the background than just doing it all from light to dark. You know, we were kind of breaking it up a little bit. Okay, so I went ahead and finished that, and I'll hold it to the camera. You can see it almost kind of reminds me in a weird way of an alcohol ink background a little bit, just kind of that patterning that the stencils create. Now we're going to move on to creating our focal point. So I have the Rainbow Accents Honeycut set. I'm going to first die cut my arches for my rainbow out of some heavyweight white cardstock. Just pop out all my 5 arches. Then I'll move on to those accent pieces and die cut those out of some more white cardstock. These are just going to add a little bit more interest to our white arches. Just even though it's white on white, you'll still notice the texture that the detailed die cut adds, or that accent die cut adds. Just added some liquid adhesive to the backside of that largest accent arch, and now I'm just adhering it directly onto the largest arch. And again, that just adds some nice texture and will make the rainbow a little bit more interesting. Now we're moving on to the second arch with that second accent, just adhering those 2 together. Once we finish that, we'll move on to the third and final accent. Only the 3 largest arches have die cut accents for them. The other 2 do not, and I'm just going to leave them blank, and I think it totally looks fine. It has a cohesive look because we kind of put our sentiment there, and we also have clouds that we will make right now. So I'm using the Rainbow Builder A2 card base set because there are some clouds in there. Just going to die cut them out of some white cardstock again. And this will also kind of tidy up the bottom 2 of our arch. I really love that, adding those clouds to the rainbow. Now we're moving on to a sentiment. We're going to create a rainbow. We're going to make this rainbow word rainbow. I'm starting with my same Distress Oxide colors, first inking it up in a little bit of that Picked Raspberry, moving on to Candied Apple now, and really angling my ink pad so only a small amount of that sentiment gets inked up with that Candied Apple, and then I'll stamp it. Now moving on to Spiced Marmalade, again really angling my ink pad so only a small portion of that sentiment gets inked up. And you can really see how our rainbow is coming along. It's looking really beautiful. Now on to the mustard seed. And then we'll move on to Mowed Lawn. Now this is the biggest jump, I think, between the two colors. Mowed Lawn is kind of a darker green. I probably should have opted for Twisted Citron, but it's still okay. It still does a pretty good transition because the lettering is not too thick and it doesn't look choppy, which sometimes can happen with this technique if you don't kind of soften it with your finger or a blending brush or a blending tool. So now I just finished up with the Mermaid Lagoon and Blueprint Sketch, and I decided I needed a tiny bit of purple on over my pink, so I did grab a little bit of that Wilted Violet and inked up a little bit of that R. And here is our finished rainbow sentiment. It looks so good, and it will match really nicely with the background because it's all the same inks. So I went ahead and die cut it out with the matching die, and I also created this sub sentiment with the stamp set and the matching die set. I just stamped it in embossing ink and then heat embossed it with some white embossing powder. I'm going to now kind of assemble this card, starting with my panel, just adding some liquid adhesive to the backside and centering it on an A2 top folding white card base turned on its side. Again, because this panel is a little bit smaller than an A2 panel, we have a nice little white border around that card front. And then I'm going to arrange all my arches here with the little clouds on them. Once I get it all looking just right, I then grab a piece of press and seal and actually pick this up because I want to add some foam adhesive to the backside because I want to pop this rainbow up from the background. So I've grabbed my foam adhesive here and I'm just going to start adding it everywhere to all the arches and to the clouds. After I've added my foam adhesive to the backside, I then removed the backing, which you see me doing here, and now I am able to stick it down onto my card front. So I'm just going to center this and place it down. I love the contrast of that white rainbow, and the little bit of detail from those accent die cuts really do add a lot of texture. I'm just finishing here by securing the clouds down with a little bit of liquid adhesive. They're only kind of barely stuck down with some of the foam adhesive, but I used some of the liquid adhesive to really make them lie flat. Now I'm going to finish up with my sentiment. I'm going to arrange my rainbow and that sub-sentiment, pick it up with a little piece of micropore tape, just kind of like, basically like how you would use the press and seal. I could have used the press and seal too for this. And then I'm going to grab some more foam adhesive and add it to the backside of these two sentiments. Once I get that foam adhesive on the backside, I'll then also remove the backing and stick this down onto my card front. And this will actually, once I get that stuck down, this will actually complete my card. Pretty simple, but lots of color and lots of texture and interest. I didn't want to go too busy with anything else because there's lots to look at, even though it's kind of a clean and simple card. And I love that contrast of that white rainbow with that beautiful, really cool stenciled background. I just think that has a lot of fun texture for this card. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I used, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.